October 15th, 2025. I'm John Michael Chambers, and welcome back to the Global Financial Reset weekly show, Surviving and Thriving the Transition. And joining me today, possibly, trying to get in Benjamin Hart, U.S. attorney residing in Bangkok, Thailand, to comment on a lot of the issues that are happening, which includes the 86 million bank accounts closed in Vietnam, and the trajectory that he sees taking place. We're trying to get Benjamin in. We also have Christy Allen, Bill Armour with Genesis Gold Capital, and we'll be hearing from Josh Reed. We do have a packed program tonight with or without Ben, and we sure hope Benjamin can join us. Again, he'll be talking about digital totalitarianism, 86 million bank accounts shut down in Vietnam, and what this may mean across Asia and the world. Christy Allen, many of you know Christy. She's recently come aboard and doing a fantastic job, and we appreciate her services at JMC Broadcasting. She publishes Tsunami of Truth, and she's going to talk about the switch just being flipped. Is the QFS live now, and many other sort of back channel information that you're going to want to listen to and do your research on. We've got Bill Armour with Genesis Gold Capital joining us. He's going to talk about a term called backwardation. This is very, very important. An historic move has just been made concerning inventory, pricing structure, futures versus spot price. Is silver now scarce? What is happening with the depleted London inventories? And much, much more, as both gold and silver are going through the roof, like we told you it would. Josh Reed is joining us also. A 30-minute discussion I had with Josh on blockchain and cryptocurrency, the tokenization of everything. So again, folks, we've got a packed show. Now, we'll get down to it in a moment, but one of the next events we may very well see unfold before the full disclosure and the emergency broadcast system, which I believe is a high probability, will be the financial collapse. There's mixed schools of thought from people in very high places, whether or not that'll happen, and if so, who's pulling the trigger. But anyway, and this is yet another reason, though, the uncertainties to invest in both gold and silver, because they're rising in value, real value. And as the Fed lowers rates, expect a potential catapult, as we see happening now, in gold and silver. They're both now, including silver, at all-time highs. Silver's at about $53, gold's at about $4,200, and are shooting through the roof like we have been projecting for quite some time. Gold, of course, will play a major role in securing the U.S. dollar again and in the new stablecoin digital currency in the QFS that we are moving towards. So visit jmcgenesismetals.com. Click on that link. Go ahead and do it now or later. I realize the link was broken the last several days. We apologize for that. That has been corrected over at Genesis Metals. So visit me at jmcgenesismetals.com and schedule your free consult with Bill Armour. All right, so here's a disclaimer, and then we're going to get into the red meat. I am not giving any specific individual investment advice on this program. This is for educational purposes only. I bring aboard a variety of guests to the GFR. While many of my guests, and myself included, have done the research, as many of you have too, it is my belief that only President Donald Trump and a handful of pertinent others in his circles know exactly what new system we are in fact moving into, and just when and how this will indeed play out. But we've got all the pointers, all the roadmaps and signs, which we'll get into in this episode. One thing we do know is great change is now taking place. And having said that, I encourage you too to continue to do your own research when this show concludes. All right, so to my producer, if we get Benjamin, just alert me in my earpiece, and then we will certainly bring on a USA attorney residing in Bangkok for, I think he's a naturalized citizen here now for 20 years. Anyway, yes, we do not have Benjamin just yet, and we're moving forward in just a moment. We're going to bring on Christy Allen. There she is on the screen. Thanks for keeping up with me. I'm getting my technology in order since we rearranged the entire show just a moment ago. All right, anyway, here we are. Our first guest is Christy Allen. Christy Allen had a long career in radio, independent TV, doing voiceover work, as well as a singing career Before, whoops, one moment. I am having technical difficulties. Yeah. All right. So Christy Allen is here, folks, and had a singing career as well. But before her most challenging Earth assignment, when she became a whistleblower on child sex abuse, she put the MK Ultra pieces together from her own military family and broadcasted what she saw to a worldwide audience. She and I have been friends on social media for some time, and this is. Let me bring Christy on. I'm going to be adjusting. Let's go full screen with Christy in a moment. I've got some technical things to take care of. Sorry for the rough introduction here. Christy Allen, welcome to the broadcast. It seems her screen is frozen. Perhaps we can bring the show moving forward. Christy, are you with us? Apparently not. All right, to my producer, let's run a spot. And then bring us right back to where we are in the program. We'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. This is an incredible lineup we have of unbelievable information as so many things are breaking. Christy, I see you are with us. Can you say hello?
Hello. How are you doing?
Great. Sorry, we've been having all kinds of tech issues. That happens from time to time, but we seem to be good to go. I'm going to step off camera for just 1 second. Go full screen with Christy. Tsunami of Truth is published here each and every a couple of days a week. Why don't you talk about Tsunami of Truth, your programming, and then I'll be back in just about 60 seconds to chat with you. Thank you. Full screen.
Okay. Well, John asked me to do the Tsunami of Truth about a month and a half ago. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. I haven't done much for about 9 years, and there were some good reasons for that. But basically, yeah, I was just starting to feel better. I've been sick for quite a few years, and it was kind of a wonderful thing because I was asking in my prayers, well, I'm feeling better. Maybe I could do some good again, put me to work. And then you contacted me, John. So I had a good feeling about it. I didn't know much about you. And, but I heard you once do an interview that I thought was one of the best interviews I'd ever seen with one of my favorite podcasters, who is General Bosey from, is he a general? He sure acts like a general. But just an incredible.
Well, he sure does. He sure does take on the presence of a 3 or 4 star general. But he's a retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosey from Australia. Pardon me, folks. I'm working out one last detail.
There it is. Well, I just found your interviewing style to be exceptional. I used to interview people on the radio a long time ago. I had a show when I was a singing star in the Mormon Church. And I would have guests on, and I know that that's an art, and you're very good at it. And so I was pretty impressed, especially when I saw some of your numbers. I thought, wow! And some of the people, the guests that you have on regularly, I was kind of amazed that you would ask me. So,
well, thank you for all that, and thanks for being here. Yes, I had my run in this game years ago, a higher calling, if you will, that I took an oath to, and said, well, I don't know anything about technology or news, but sure, go ahead, I'll go down this approach. And eventually it brought me to a YouTube channel, American show I used to do called Making Sense of the Madness, till I got debanked, deplatformed, and thrown off. And I doubled down and counterpunched, as our president would do, and formed American Media Periscope, which of course was a trailblazing online digital news network. Due to my health issues, which were extraordinary at the time as well, the company was transitioned over to a different group, and so here we are, JMC Broadcasting, and it's great to be here. We're officially going to get the show started, folks. All the tech issues seem to be behind me. Christy, thanks for being here. You did a recent Tsunami Truth. What is the title again? Tsunami of Truth broadcast. And this particular one, largely, and they're usually short, folks, 5 to 15 minutes, twice a week. You'll want to listen to the report, but right now she's going to get into it. Why don't you bring some of the highlights of the research you had done and reported in that report as it relates to the all things economic, because it's pretty extraordinary. Take it away, and I'll come back with some questions for you.
Well, basically, I brought up that Julian Assange, who was talking about how we needed to read the carefully what he was saying, and that it was that the clock is ticking. And I think he was referring to that debt clock, and how Trump and the BRICS alliance had flipped the global switch and were activating the quantum financial system, something that I've heard about for a very, very long time. But I was kind of taken back by that. I thought, wow, this is great news. And of course, the QFS is the fully gold asset-backed program that basically is now doing secure SHI transactions for Tier 3 humanitarian programs. And some military vets have already been asked to participate, and verified patriots. So basically, unquote. And then on October 8th, I watch the debt clock every once in a while. It dropped, and at 1:13 p.m. And some are saying that this was the moment that the system slipped and then, or flipped. And then a person who is a friend of mine on Facebook, we've heard so much from Derek Johnson. We've heard from all these people talking about 11.3. And I thought I knew what that was. But then we looked at that it was 1:13 in the afternoon, and you flip that, anyway, it's pretty interesting. So anyway, it means all kinds of different things, but could it be the shift? That was what my show was about. Is this from dark to light? And then I started thinking about all the many different shifts that there have been. A lot of people are saying that, starting Columbus Day yesterday, that this week will be the quantum week. That's what we had been leaked out. And so that it might start with just what you just finished saying about the banking and market crash, something that we've all been looking at for a long time. And it sure has got all the pointers that that's what's going to be happening. So, everything from, you name it, they're all like pointing the finger at this week. So we'll just see what happens. Time will tell, right?
Yes, we will see what happens. There's a lot happening, and a lot of the things that are happening are not so readily seen or available unless you really look in the corners that folks like you and others do look in. And we do realize that we are moving away from the debt-based fiat system, which has a lot to do with the U.S. dollar, since we lost control of that in 1913. But Trump seems to be making the moves to regain that and issue treasury dollars versus fiat Fed dollars, and eventually a stable coin in the QFS, is at least how I see this all playing out. Comment about anything you know about or may have discovered as of recent concerning the IRS and the Federal Reserve, because there's a lot of chatter coming from the Trump administration, including Dan Scavino, regarding moves being made, and some of which already have been, to transform or eliminate both of those organizations or entities.
Well, a lot of people from the IRS were fired, and now that the shutdown has happened, there's even chatter, in all over the place, that we're wondering if this isn't just, part of the movie, and that a lot of systems may not be opening back up. Of course, they do have the quantum financial system in, the way I put it in my Tsunami of Truth broadcast, it occurred to me that the quantum system is like the wallflower at the dance, She's she's the one that nobody noticed, until now. And she has this beautiful new gold dress and a hairdo, and she knows how to dance even better than, what's her name? The worthless fiat, ugly green Federal Reserve note, So the quantum financial system is sitting there waiting to, maybe make a cushion for all of the trillions, apparently, that has been found, that have been reclaimed through repatriation. Let me see if I got that right. Repatriatization. There we go. And what that basically means, according to Gene Decode, is that those are the monies that were taken. Because what happened with the executive order 13818, which is the one on crimes against humanity. If you were caught, sex trafficking or crimes against humanity or anything like that, then your bank account's going to get drained. They're not even going to put you through the JAG system, the court system, but they are going to take away your money, which I think is more than fair, especially when a lot of it has been stolen from the United States citizens. So basically, that I believe is what Trump and the White Hats are doing with the quantum financial system, is allowing us to receive, help, a check when we need them, just like what happened at the end of his first term. And a lot of this money, people are saying, where's this money coming from? Well, he went to the Supreme Court and he got what was underground in all these parks that nobody could touch. That can now be unearthed, and we can now include that as far as assets that the United States owns. So that was huge. And we've heard about the 150, oh gosh, I think it's 150 miles between under the Vatican, and that they had cleaned out the Vatican, the White Hats and the military, and that there was an underground tunnel that went all the way from there to Jerusalem. And if true, that's a lot of gold. It was just lined with gold. And, you've heard people say it was 650 plane loads, of gold. So we knew about that. Now we've got unearthed all the underground minerals. So that's going to be worth a lot. We're just finally getting a chance to capitalize on what it is we have. Trump has also mentioned the oil reserves that we have, which really shocked me. I thought, if we had all this oil, why are we relying on these other countries? And, it was just one of the many just strange things that had been done in the past. And, whatever it was being used for, maybe leverage, I don't know what was happening. But now it's getting straightened out with a America First president who cares about, that first. So you also hear that they actually went over to Antarctica and found some very strange things down under the ground there as well. Some even saying that it was upward of 1,000, like 900 and some odd. Now, I'm going to say a number, so try not to flip out, but they're saying it was $1,000 trillion or, value, whether it was gold or whatever was found there. It was a lot. So what had been happening, maybe even for, a very long time, who knows how long, they would steal the money, whoever had been running the planet, and then they would basically hoard it, and it never got back into the system. So our poor little fiat dollar that started out rich, because America has pretty much always been very wealthy, basically it just got siphoned off and siphoned off and siphoned off until it was literally worth nothing, which brings us right to today.
It sure does. Well, thank you. And you're in good company with a lot of economists and a lot of people in the know, like Juan O'Savin, for example, that I speak with fairly regularly. You're absolutely right. Of course, we know about the airplanes that took all the gold and other stolen goods from the world, from the Vatican, and that's one place. You've cited Antarctica, as well as many other things. I don't think anyone has a number that they can peg on it, but I hear even in the quadrillions is the amount of wealth that has been repackaged up and redelivered somewhere. And I believe, as Juan has also stated, the 37 trillion federal debt that we see on that usadebtclock.org that you referenced a moment ago, much of that debt was fraudulent and will be removed from our books and put right back on the books. I would say is the last nail in the coffin of the Federal Reserve, but that's one man's opinion. Let's talk about the nationwide cleanups and the military tribunals a bit, because this is all part of the program as well. I mean, you've got so much going on. The JAG sites are underway. You mentioned before about the executive orders. I don't know if there was 13818 or 13848, but these executive orders in part one of them spoke about, as you mentioned, the being able to seize accounts and assets anyone found with sex trafficking or anything of this nature. I believe all that has been ongoing. I'm sure you do. And I believe that that is happening today and probably not finished yet. But there is so much going on behind the scenes. Any comments about the policing, the National Guard, the sanctuary cities, and this sort of thing that you see taking place?
Well, basically, I mean, what we've got Portland that's almost finished. I think they've got a whole bunch of them. Let's see, we've got Philadelphia, Chicago, Portland, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. Um, just strongholds of corrupt cabal activity. Of course, these are the blue states that had been. I guess the people just fell asleep and they thought they were, voting in Republicans. And what has been done here is a whole party had been just literally taken over by the satanic cabal. And so they were sending a lot of people under the name of, red-hatted, uh, Republicans that were just rhinos and were doing all of the blue-hatted things, So Utah was another one that it got completely taken over. And, that's very interesting. We've got a lot of debate over whether or not Governor Cox actually even got in legitimately. It went through the court system, and he won supposedly because he got a lot of signatures, and it's a long story. But anyway, so they asked for those signatures, and finally they sent Phil Lyman, who had taken this to court, who was going to be the governor because nobody was opposing him. And so Cox wasn't even supposed to be on the thing. He got a bunch of signatures last second. So they asked for the signatures, and he finally did get them, but they were all redacted, or most of them were redacted. So that's not fair. Those are dirty politics. And so that's still on the table. We don't know what's going to happen with that. But yeah, the National Guard has been called in. It's, like Trump said, if they spit on you, we hit, they spit, we hit. They're not kidding around anymore. What they used to put up with. I mean, we all remember when these people just went after our cities and they just started burning them. They tore down everything, and businesses suffered, everyone suffered. And so the great thing now is that if they try to do the same old thing, they're not getting away with it. You can only, put up with that so much. But now they had to have some legal teeth to put into it with the National Guard and, the oath taking to the Constitution. I think they did just clean a lot of that up with the military. But the National Guard was called in instead, and we'll see how that works out. So far, so good.
Oh yeah, so far so good for sure. There's a new sheriff in town, and that statement's been evidenced by how Tom Holman and his crew, as well as the National Guard and the Army Reserves. And this is the beginning, Christy. I believe, as we comb through, certainly, the well-spoken of already 17 or 19 Democrat-run cities throughout the country that this will be taking place in. But we've also been informed, for example, by retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt and others that we need to be vigilant and prepared wherever we are in America for what they believe is going to be hitting the streets. And so to conclude on the National Guard narrative, you've got the National Guard and you've got the Army Reserves and so forth being deployed to clean up the crime, to assist and handle the homeless situation to an extent. But really, more importantly, from my lens that I see happening, is they are there, besides those efforts, for when the proverbial what hits the fan. When the big arrests, even an arrests are happening now, you've got Comey, you've got processes taking place at various stages with Letitia, with Comey, with John Bolton now, the next move there. And it's the tip of the iceberg. As we know, the president has told us all roads lead to Obama. It's Hillary and Obama. And I believe the National Guard and Army Reserves and so forth are there not only for the reasons just stated, but to help take care of business when things get a little complicated later, because they will. We are, when that happens, that is the 11th hour. That is it. There is no room left on the precipice. They are finished. And what's left? Death, destruction, disruption. And but we'll be there. We'll be there. We'll be prepared. We'll be ready. And I'm going to close this segment out, taking us in a different direction, Christy. 400,000 foot view. This is battle between good and evil. That's where we're engaged. And as you well know, close out your segment with sharing with us commentary about that shift in the minds and hearts and cellular structure, the spiritual shift that's taking place, and where you see us from July 26th forward.
Wow. Well, I have a friend who became friends with President Trump, and this was before he had become president. They were both book authors, and they were sitting next to each other at a book signing. People weren't, lined up back then for either one of them, and they just sat there and talked and really got to know each other. She is a very spiritual person, and he really opened up to her, and he said, I have had some experiences, and he shared with her some of the spiritual experiences he had had. So she told me that a long time ago. So I kind of knew that, maybe his earlier life wasn't the same as his present day life. And then I heard that, recently he actually put out an experience that he had had when he was really tired, and he got an experience where he had a spiritual experience that was very powerful for him, and he was shown some things about America. And I cried when I read this, because I already knew that he had. And then anyway, she had a heart prompting to call him on that. She's like a very gifted person. When she has these heart promptings, she just doesn't know. She just knows what's going to happen. And she was told to call the White House, and that President Trump would answer. And I know that sounds nuts, but it was that weekend, if you'll remember, that the media was really being mean to President Trump and saying, you don't visit that. This was his first term. You don't care about the troops. You don't visit them. And he had already had a meeting with the troops. He had just come back, and he had sent everybody home that night because it was, Christmas Eve night. And guess who answered the phone? It was him. It was President Trump. And they had a wonderful talk, and he had told her some more about what had happened and how his heart was changed. And a lot of people have said, that he said that the man that came into this office is not the same one. And so I believe he's divinely led. I think anyone who can pull off 8 peace agreements, I think we're up to 8 now, and you can say whatever you want, because it doesn't matter what anyone says, it's what they do. And what I'm seeing is that we have a peace president that is interested in bringing the world together for a golden age, who is literally brokering every country's squabbles through economic win-wins. And I don't see how that can do anything but strengthen everyone on this planet and give us hope for a new and wonderful world just ahead, as soon as these flip arounds, are done. And I understand that, with Israel saved for last, that we're going to all get some very eye-opening awakenings, and this will shake us to our core. We'll find out more about the diamond industry. We're going to find out all kinds of things that, we never knew. And the thing that I'm most impressed about with what the White Hats and, President Trump and the Patriots are making people aware of, and it's very close to my heart because of what happened to me in my childhood, is this has all been about the children. Because if, in spite of what has happened to them, autism and the close tie and link that they lied to us about, with the COVID vax. So many of the parents would never have done that to their children. But with that having already happened, and with what we now know with the Epstein files of what the Clinton Foundation was up to, with the incredible evil that had been going on with the children, what we now know about the mind control, all of this stuff going on in the deep underground military bases, is that we've got nowhere to go but up. And what we allowed as as a nation had fallen asleep with just, you know, having little or no care about an unborn child. And, you know, what they had done is they had put this up there and they really fooled women. And they made them think that this was all about women's rights. And basically what it was is it was about a business of the most evil people in the world who have no respect for life, who were absolutely and 100% making money off of dead baby parts. They were making money off of the DNA of humans. They were making money off of live organs. And now we know that they have to take them out of living people. And that was what was exposed when I spoke originally in London with my testimony. There was a gentleman there that had talked about that. And just, I can't even imagine. These people must have absolutely no moral compass whatsoever. And that's what we know about them. And what I've seen is that the exact opposite is happening as all the boomerangs and all the flips are going the other direction. We're literally going in a different direction. I always talk about how we're going north instead of south, and how you can't go north when you're going south. And all I see from what is happening since, you know, the turnaround has happened with President Trump and the White Hats is that we are going north. And yet, because of the indoctrination and the brainwashing from dual citizenship media that really need to be registered as foreign agents, and they really, in my opinion, should also be divulging where they get their money. We just need to clean all that out so that the mind control can stop, because now we still have people, in fact, of them seeing the peace president, what he's doing, what the White Hats are doing. They're still not believing, and they're still believing the lies rather than the truth and the direction that we are now going. So it's clear to some of us. Maybe it'll be clear to a lot more of us in the future.
Yeah, well said. As I wrap up our time together here, I'll conclude with this. As you just stated, what we're witnessing, of course, a battle between good and evil. We're seeing the fall of the cabal, for sure. It's been going on for some years. We're almost there. You're talking about a complete rearrangement of the control mechanisms of everything, from London to the Vatican, to the media, to the big pharma, to religion, to everything in between. And this is a gargantuan undertaking that's been going on for, as you know, for decades, but certainly in the last 10 years with this emergence of Donald J. Trump. You alluded to earlier, the chosen one, divinely connected Donald Trump to source. I believe that to be the case. Those of us voted for him all three times. Truth be told, he won all three times. And here he is with the White Hats, with the team, and some say with a lot of other support, taking place and redirecting the course correction for humanity. And that is what is happening. We are almost there. And big week just occurred with so many things. You've got Israel and the Israel for last situation. We're going to talk about that in our Global Defense War panel coming up next week and break that down as well. But I don't think we're there, save Israel for last. I think we're approaching last, and we're watching the incremental steps of exposure of Bibi Netanyahu and what Israel's role really is, and the confusions that people have referencing the Bible versus the Israel of today and the Khazarians, and so forth and so on. And Juan and I have covered that extensively in the past. But we're almost there with Israel, and we're almost there with everything else. Dangerous times. Everyone stay safe. And Christy, thank you very much for your twice a week. What 2 days are you publishing on JMC Broadcasting your Tsunami of Truth?
We're doing it on Monday and Thursday. And before I go, I did want to mention, you had talked about the IRS, and I didn't get a chance to mention that we
Mhm.
now have, well, we know, the IRS now has a new CEO, okay, which means it's like a
Mhm.
corporation. And so it's the private sector. And that means that, most employees there are hired at will, which means that the CEO can fire them for any reason or no reason at all. So that's something to hope
Yes,
about too. It
another.
looks like they're ready to get rid of the
An,
IRS.
Well, without question, that's another not subtle move made by the president and others to slowly, as I say, slowly expose, b dismantle both the organizations of the Federal Reserve. Nothing federal about it. There is no reserve, and of course the IRS. They both came hand in hand. Thank you, Woodrow Wilson, in 1913, and all that, folks, is coming to an end pretty soon. So stay tuned to this broadcast, the other shows we have, and other folks that you've chosen to get information from. Thank you very much, Christy Allen, for your
Thank you.
contributions here. And thank you very much. We're going to bring on Bill Armour. Bill has built a unique career combining vocational ministry and expertise in the precious metals industry, equipping him to bridge faith based perspectives with practical wisdom in stewardship and business. He's originally from Tucson, Arizona. Bill spent 8 years serving in the U.S. Army Reserves, and thereafter he went on to attend Azusa Pacific University, a Christian school in Southern California, with a focus in Christian ministry and biblical studies. Bill is a precious metals expert and a director at Genesis Gold, my resource, my contact there. We've got the image of Bill. It's going to look pretty much just like the guy who's coming on the screen right now. Please welcome back Bill Armour. There he is. Welcome, sir.
Pleasure. Happy to be here.
We've got a lot to cover, and you can let's begin with backward. What is it called? Backwardation. Let's get
Backwardation.
into that
Yes.
if you want to start there first. Take your time, folks. Listening to this broadcast, I was briefed by a PhD video on this. And prompted me to contact Bill immediately, who wasn't scheduled for this broadcast and came on. I appreciate it, Bill. Unpack this. This is very important, folks, to understand whether you own silver or looking at acquiring silver for the first time or looking at acquiring additional silver. We're also going to talk about gold and many other economic related things and the precious metals components since it's exploding. But Bill, let's talk about what just took place that did not get the mainstream headlines it really needs. You make those headlines right now, sir.
Yeah, happy to. So it's going to take a little bit of unpacking. Most people, when they think about buying gold or silver, they don't, just like anything, you don't always think about all of the mechanics that go on behind the scenes to make that happen. So, kind of like when you buy a car, you're really just thinking about the car you buy. You don't think about all of the steps it took to get that car there. The metals market, like really any other financial market, is driven a lot by paper, by physical. There's really a ton going on. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is to unpack a little bit of how that works and then explain to you what just happened and why it is such a big deal. Because what just happened over the last few days over the weekend is the biggest news. Make no mistake, it is the biggest news that we've had in silver in over 40 years. And you might say, well, why haven't I been hearing about that? Part of it is because it is kind of complicated. It is a little bit hard to understand, and it does take a little bit of time. So if you're listening, I'm going to do my best to put this in layman's terms that make sense, but also get deep enough so that you can actually understand really what is happening. So to start, when we talk about gold and silver and metals, there's really two main parts of it. You've got the physical market and you've got the paper market. Any ounce of physical silver or gold that exists, there's probably 300 plus ounces that is being traded on the paper market in any given day. So actually the majority of money moving hands, so to speak, is paper, gold, and silver. It's about 300 to 1 any given day. And that setup depends by and large on trust that paper, gold, and silver can be delivered if it was ever wanted. Think of it a lot of how we operate with our bank. If someone told you that tomorrow you would not be able to get your money out of the bank, of course you would immediately run there. You would get your money out today. But because you trust, for the most part, that the money in your checking account will be there tomorrow, you don't do that. You continue to wait. All of a sudden, however, if everyone else started pulling their money out of the bank, that's how you get a run on the bank. So the system in gold and silver, like anything else, is built on trust by and large. So there's a few key players that are going to be important for this discussion. The first is called COMEX, and that is basically the paper side, the future side of gold and silver. There's COMEX. Think COMEX paper. On the other side, you've got the London Bullion Market Exchange. For over 100 years, that has been basically the physical metals capital of the world. And those are kind of the two halves, for the most part, of gold and silver. You've got a lot of other players that kind of play into this. You've got bullion banks, JP Morgan, United Bank of Scotland, et cetera, and they kind of play in between this. You've got central banks, United States, Russia, China, et cetera. And then you've got industrial users, miners, traders. So all of these different peoples are kind of coalescing and coming together to form this. But the two pieces to keep in mind to start is COMEX, which is paper, and you've got the London Bullion Metals Exchange, or Market Association, which is going to be your physical gold and silver. So what happens on a given day, because obviously gold and silver is so pricey to move around, it's big, it's heavy, you have to ship it, it can take a long time, you're constantly mining it, is that there is almost like a rotation going around of the paper gold and silver. If you want it, you're redeeming that, you're trading that with people over in the London Bullion Exchange. You're taking almost like a ticket from COMEX again being the paper. So they might have 5,000 ounce contract, and then you would hold on to that, and in the future you could actually get delivery of that, but a very, very small percentage of that is ever actually delivered. When we talk about COMEX, almost 99+% of that is never actually going to be delivered. It's just going to keep trading hands. And it's going to trade hands. And then when that due date comes close, they're going to basically trade it for a future date. And they're going to trade it for a future date. And that kind of continues. Now, of course, on the other side of that, sometimes people do actually want gold and silver. They want to take possession of that. And just for numbers' sake here, COMEX will trade 300-400 million ounces of gold or silver any given day, but they only actually have 30-35 million ounces on hand at any given point. So if people from COMEX in New York wanted delivery of their metals, COMEX would have no chance they could deliver those metals. They're way over leveraged. And again, that works because everyone understands that in 3 months, when that futures contract expires, they could get their metals if they wanted. On the other side, you've got the physical side, the London Bullion Exchange there. And that is kind of the tangible side of this. So, and it's not just an exchange, it's really just a bunch of bullion banks that have metals and will kind of trade those internally. And on the flip side, people want to come and redeem that and take metals out, they can do that. So think of London Bullion Exchange as the physical and the COMEX as the paper. And for the most part, futures contracts, again, are going to be in the future. So the price for silver or gold at any given time should be somewhere between the current spot price, which is the physical delivery price, the tangible price of that, and the futures price, what we expect delivery in 3 months to be. Futures is is in exception to where we're at now, always going to be more expensive because we expect things to go up in price over time. A house in a year, you would say, is probably going to be more expensive than a house today. So generally, futures prices above spot price, so there's kind of a difference there. Now, together, that forms basically how we decide what the price is. It's somewhere in between delivery today and delivery in the future, and it's constantly kind of moving. Now, on the case that someone says, hey, I want physical gold and silver because I am a refiner. I make coins, I make bars, I'm a mint. So they don't really care so much about the COMEX ticket. They actually want the physical gold and silver. So what they can do is they can do an exchange for physical. They can take that ticket that is, will come due in 3 months, and they can walk that over, or at least send it over to London and say, can we trade this, which is a promise for metals in 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, for metals today? And there's some price. They say, great, we'll charge you some amount of money to buy that ticket, but yes, you can have your physical metals. So that system continues. And generally, as long as people aren't over redeeming, so to speak, there's no issues there. It's kind of like COMEX, the paper is a ticket for later. The London Bullion Metals Exchange is going to be the physical that you could redeem it for. So they give up that future position to get it now. So I know I'm getting into a little bit, but it's important to understand some of the structure here. Now, what happens all of a sudden when a bunch of people start redeeming those tickets at once? Well, we covered it similarly with a bank run. All of a sudden, they either can't deliver those metals, they can't give those metals up, or they're going to start saying, we don't want to give them up because these things are going up in price a lot. The whole system is built on this lending out, lending out, lending out, lending out, lending out. It's tiered. It's a derivative system. You have the central banks that have most of the gold and silver, who lend it to the bullion banks. That's JP Morgan, that's United Bank of Scotland. And then they lend it out again. And then they lend it out again. And then maybe it gets to, again, a refiner who is doing something called leasing. So basically they have the metal and they're paying some amount of money, thinking eventually I'll get the metal to pay them back. I'm leasing the metal to make my coins. I'll get the metals later. But if those central banks stop giving metal up because they're running out or because the price is going up too much, that whole system, that house of cards, starts to collapse. And that is exactly what has happened over the last few days. The borrowing rates are getting exorbitant. They go from 0.5%, 1%. Now they were 100% over the weekend. So people can't afford to borrow metals. It's you either got it or you don't. So when silver becomes scarce, which it is, and I'll get to some numbers to explain that. When silver becomes scarce, central banks stop lending metals. The bullion banks can't source it. The borrowers can't get metal. The futures prices starts to become a delta difference between them. And you get this term backwardation. And that term backwardation, all that means is that the future price of silver is lower than the price today. So the price to get silver delivered to you in 6 months is cheaper than it is to get silver on this very, very day. And what that tells you is that people have lost faith that they will actually get that silver in 6 months, a year. They are basically saying, we don't believe that, so much so we are willing to pay more to get it today rather than, even though we know the silver is going to be worth more later, we'll pay more. And then, okay, well, no one's taking, okay, well, fine, we'll pay even more. And this continues, and it's almost like a doom loop that continues. And so you get this difference here. It's about a $2 difference right now, as silver is about $53 as I'm looking here today, about $51 on futures. So this difference here, it's the largest difference in 40 plus years. This doesn't happen. This is a seismic shift in the industry that is basically calling the bluff that you don't actually have the metals. This paper industry, you don't have the metals, and we want the metals. And so they're calling the bluff, so to speak. And what you will start to see, and what we have seen, if you've been looking at silver prices lately, is the physical price of silver is and will continue to skyrocket. It will shoot up in a way that's only happened a couple times in history. So some historical kind of parallels to put this in perspective for people. This happened 2 times before. One, the Hunt brothers, if anyone remembers them, and they kind of generated that, and they pushed silver because, again, they called the bluff and it worked. The silver went from 28 to 48 back then, which, that's a long time ago, but it was about a, 70, 80% return in a couple weeks. We're not talking, months, a year. We're talking 2 to 3 weeks. And then in 2011, it happened again. We had a similar one, again, not to the scale of which is happening right now, but silver went from about 29 to 49. So we saw this jump up. The difference here, by the way, people, from what happened with the Hunt brothers and even 2011 is that this is the inevitable response to the system lying. Those were kind of, you've heard the term short squeeze and whatnot. Those were just kind of irregularities with the market. This is silver that has been pushed down for a long time through paper traders that is finally going to revert to its actual, the price it should be. If you've heard me on this program before, you've heard me talk about where silver should be in relation to gold, about $150 or so. This is that process is what's finally starting, is the bluff is being called and it's time to ante up. So what does this mean for everyone? It means, of course, physical silver, if you've got it, is going to go up dramatically, or at least it has in every time in history, and one would absolutely expect that. And you're going to see potentially major bank failures because they are on the wrong side of it. They can't get the metal, they're forced to cover in cash. And if silver shoots up to $150, guess what? They're in a lot of trouble. They're going to take massive lumps to a scale we haven't seen since something like 2008 with the housing market crash. Same idea, a paper system that is built up that they take one card out and the whole thing crumbles. So that's kind of where we find ourselves today as a top level. I know quite a bit in there, but hopefully that made some sense to people on where we're standing currently.
Thank you very much, Bill. Well stated, well said. And let me raise a few points, mostly questions and perhaps some confirmations that I think would be on the mind of the viewer. It's certainly on my mind. A few broad statements is we go back to the Q boards, the drops that were done some years ago, where they said gold will bring down the Fed or expose the Fed, this sort of a thing. Seems like silver's doing that right now, at least the system to an extent. So the futures price today is a couple of dollars less than the spot price. If someone wants to buy silver today, what are they buying it at, minus the cost of acquisition from a firm like yours?
Right, absolutely. So the physical price, the actual raw metal value, is about $53. Now, the price, again, to have it delivered, in December, that's when the next futures contracts is due, is about $51. So there is a $2 difference, which is, again, telling us that people are losing faith that they will get that gold, because otherwise everyone would do it. You're saying I could get, you'll hold it for me, you'll store it for me, you'll insure it for me, all of that, and I still get my silver for $2 cheaper. Anyone with a brain would say that's a great idea, unless you do not believe that you will actually get it. And that is what that difference is telling us, is that the entire system is crumbling, frankly. That whole system of trust that was built here, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of layers, is finally someone, and many people are calling BS on that. And a lot of that has to do with supply shortages in silver. This is the 5th consecutive year that we have had a deficit in the amount of silver that we've pulled out of the ground versus the amount of silver that we are consuming, that we're using, be that for rockets, for technology, whatever it might be. So there's been this difference for a while. You add in things like a couple of the largest silver mines in the country shutting down just for unforeseen circumstances. You add in the fact that we get most of our silver from South Africa and Russia, and obviously everything going on with Russia and Ukraine. And all of a sudden there's this constriction of what we could even produce. Even if silver was 1,000, suddenly you can't pull it out of the ground. It takes 17 years from the date that you hit ground to the day that you can actually start pulling the silver fully out. So this is a tremendously forward-looking system for silver. So we're at this deficit, and there's no easy way out of it.
Thank you. 2 quick questions. So as I'm listening and learning, I come to 2 conclusions, and I've been wrong before, so you can validate or invalidate my statement. It sounds to me like this is a tremendous opportunity at this particular time in history to be acquiring more silver. And secondly, so is it a good opportunity time right now for the retail investor, folks like you and I, to acquire silver? And where do you see silver going, price point, spot price of silver, now and moving forward based on these mechanical shifts?
Great question. So first off, I would say absolutely. I other than, you get in at the start of the year, whatnot, you get in a year ago, 2 years ago, always earlier was better. But as far as the information that is immediately available to you, I can't think of a better time in the last 40 years, again, all the way back to the Hunt brothers, but even that, that was not really the true price of silver. That was kind of a pump in a way. This is the true price of silver revealing itself. So I can't think of a point in the last 40 years that you would rather be buying silver. If ever there was a time you wanted it, this would be it. The second part to your question, what are projections looking like for silver? Well, first, there's the understanding it gets to that level, that 35-to-1 ratio, $100, $150 would be kind of the expectation there for a lot of analysts. But there is also a rubber banding effect, which is in the same way silver has been undervalued for so long, there's a chance that it overshoots that, and then maybe is what we would think of as overvalued. It goes to 250, 300, 400, and that would be kind of a rubber band. I mean, I'm not here currently thinking that silver is worth 400 an ounce, but it's certainly, and that's the it's a sign of the times that these things sometimes overshoot the destination. So, I mean, I think that silver looks very good, for the continued movement into $100, $150. I mean, it could be quick, like, it was a couple weeks in 1980. It could be a couple months. It was 100 days, I think, for a $20 increase when it was 28 to 48 the last time. So that was 3 months. So I think, those kind of timelines historically have been the norm. And I don't think that this is going to be that much different.
Thank you. You know, the key thing that stood out for me a moment ago, you mentioned the difference between today and the pump of the Hunt brothers, if you will, is this is revealing and exposing the true value and true price of silver, the mechanics of what is just taking place. And it just goes dovetail
Right.
perfectly into the time, spiritually, if you will, that we're living in, where
Yeah.
nothing can be hidden. And the lies and the evil and the manipulations and corruption the world over is being exposed in every single corner you look at. We had Christy talking about some of those issues. You're focusing very specifically here on silver. And so the takeaway for me on the two questions is, yes, time to buy silver, probably the best time in the last 50 or 100 years, number one. Number two, the true price of silver should be sitting at about 150. Is that accurate? Did I get
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Presently,
Yeah,
yes, some
absolutely.
forecasts much higher than that, but that would be a conservative, based on analysis that you've provided and could certainly delve more into. Silver should be sitting at about 150, and it sounds to me, folks, talking to our audience, we're heading there because we're in a time where all things are getting aligned properly, and what's not supposed to be is going to be exposed and snuffed out from top to bottom, from the sex trafficking to fake news to Wall Street and banks. And you mentioned, Bill, this could trigger a systemic flow of bank failures. Never mind the fact that FDIC is underinsured, and that's an understatement, and all the other things going on in the parallel economies of what Trump is building versus the system, the debt fiat-based system we're getting out of. Talk to me about how this issue may impact banks, because you just said a moment ago you were expecting some bank failures.
Yeah,
Elaborate on that, if
yeah.
you will.
Yeah, so it goes back to the fact that this is kind of a house of cards. So there's multiple layers. You've got like the central banks that are loaning metals out to places like UBS or JP Morgan, banks that you've heard of that have metals, but those in reality oftentimes are not actually their metals. They're being loaned those metals. They're leasing those metals from a central bank, let's say the United States. They're leasing some of those metals, or from, it could be any central bank, and then they are releasing those to other people. Now, all of a sudden, if that central bank says, hey, we really want our silver back, we're going to start instead of charging you the 0.5% or 1% that we've been charging you, we're going to charge you 50% because we really want our metals back. So either you give us our metals back or you give us 50% of the value of them, let's just say per day, theoretically. All of a sudden, if you're JP Morgan, you say, okay, well, we have to get them their metals back. So then they go down to the next layer, some of the people they've lent them down. Hey, we need our metals back, or we're going to charge you 50%. Okay. And then they go to the people, and then that continues. And at the bottom of that, if that last person can't find metals, then the person above them can't get their metals back. And so you see all of a sudden, JP Morgan, even if they would love to have the gold and silver back to get rid of those leases that they're paying exorbitant rates, if they can't do that, they're stuck paying these leasing rates, which are, again, ridiculous. So it really, even to at this point, they've levered themselves out so dramatically that they put themselves in a position that they have to rely on the people that they've delivered metals to and loaned metal and leased metal to be able to provide them back to them. And if they can't, you start seeing these humongous losses on the books for these major banks. So, and that compounds, and eventually, silver goes up dramatically before they can get that back. Maybe they're forced to go buy it on the open market, which drives the price of physical silver up again, and just kind of, they're punching themselves in the face. So it's this whole kind of mess, but that's what happens when you have a financial system that is built on paper promises and and that's the whole context. Genesis Gold Group as a whole is built on the idea that in Genesis 2, God ordained physical gold and silver, he called it good, to be used as currency because it couldn't be manipulated by these unequal scales and measures that we see throughout our entire fiat financial system. So because of that system, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And right now, a lot of these banks are in a lot of trouble and may well die by the sword.
Wonderful. This is an incredible segment. You're a powerhouse of information that you're explaining that's very complicated, and you've found a way to put the core elements in there and bring it home to us. And it leads me to two sound bites, if you will. I think of the term "birds of a feather flock together." Well, have fun, banks. You can all go enjoy your moment of misery, self-created, that's coming home to roost, and thank God literally for that. And speaking of God, God is gold's money, as you just alluded to by quoting Genesis. And now your firm, Genesis Gold, of course, sells gold, but you also allocate into silver when you're designing a portfolio for your clients. If you're allocating into silver, would anyone contacting you right now would you be able to fill their silver physical order?
Absolutely. So we deal we don't deal with a lot of this paper trading because frankly we practice what we preach. We see the issues. So we have inventory way ahead of schedule. We have access to inventory. That's no problem for us. But a lot of these, this is, and we can talk more about this, but this is the issue with the paper gold and silver, because people will tell me sometimes, well, my broker says that I have gold and silver through XYZ ETF and I could get gold if I wanted to. You're starting to see this is the tangible proof of when people ask, why should I have physical gold and silver versus, gold in an ETF or gold in a fund or this or that. And this is the answer. This is proof of exactly what I have told people about for so long. And now kind of the chickens are coming home to roost, to go back to your birds of a feather analogy there. So yes, we can absolutely supply it. But if you're talking about gold ETFs, gold funds, which we do not deal with, this is the issue with those.
Yes, it is. And I can share an experience. Had a consulting company many, many years ago when I transitioned my business and retired, if you will, from being a financial advisor, of which I was for 12 years, and had 6 offices in 3 states. And then I did some consulting en route to, the journey that I've been on. That's brought me to the seat I'm sitting in at the moment. But along that journey, in the orchestrated collapse of I guess it was 09, right, 08, that Hank Paulson moment with the legal pad, hey, Bush, give me $1.5 trillion, the world's going to collapse. That orchestrated collapse and shift of wealth that took place, hurting most of the common man and putting certain entities out of business for specific reasons. During that period of time, people were coming into my office and saying, hey, Gold hit its all-time high at that time of $2,000 an ounce, and silver hit its all-time high of $50 an ounce at that time. And they were coming into my office with all their paper proxies, iShares, mutual funds, mining shares, so forth and so on, the paper proxy of gold and silver, the SLV, the GLD, and all that. And they were collapsing. And they're like, well, how can they be going down when the price of silver and gold are at all-time highs? And so there's a host of reasons. A mine could collapse. It could be bad management. The money manager has to raise funds to pay out back to the investors when they're all trying to sell out, and all kinds of other problems. But what you've just described here with this issue with backwardation and what's going on with the futures price versus the spot price and all of that, just summarizes it, folks. The paper proxy is not the same thing as owning physical, tangible gold and silver. So if you want to protect and preserve real value, combating the declining dollar and the rising cost of goods, you've got to get the physical, tangible gold and silver. It's just that simple. And so I've got a module that I touch on that in wealthcoachuniversity.com. They're free, 10 modules. They're titled. You'll see it there. It's very simple. And I encourage you to go listen to that, because I know a lot of folks listening have the paper proxy. And while some of those funds may or may not be doing well today, I would caution you, based on what I saw happen in the real world on the last crash of 08, 09, and the elements that Bill has brought to the table concerning silver today. So we've talked about silver and why we believe it's going to 150 and perhaps beyond over a period of, we don't know, crystal ball, weeks, months, maybe a year or so. Where do you see gold going? Because gold at the same time is going through the roof. I own both physical, tangible gold and silver. I've been an investor myself since 2001. I've been buying and selling and trading on my own, on my behalf. So I have experience as personally But so I'm watching gold go through the roof. It's at $4,222, I think, at the close of business today.
Yep.
That's extraordinary. Where do you see gold? And all dots being connected, as I've done on this show and other panel shows with military and intelligence experts. It sure looks like in the parallel economies that we will be backing our currency by gold again. By the tangible gold and perhaps other commodities en route to the stablecoin in the encrypted QFS. So a lot of statements there leading to this question. Why is gold going gangbusters today? And where do you see gold over the next, 6 months to a year, 3 years, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of gold continuing to go is because they're not isolated markets in the sense that people see what's happening with silver, and there is concern that this can happen with gold as well. And it's not unfounded concern, because the same issues that plague silver in this way plague gold. And so people are starting to there's a creep. It hasn't quite reached what we're talking about with silver. The magnitude of this is definitely unprecedented. But there is a creep towards this with gold. And again, it's a trust-built system. The second that people start sniffing it and feel like it's not right, this is where you get the whole system collapses, and we get exactly what we talked about with silver. So both of these are subject to what we talk about in that way. And in regards to gold, I mean, gold is so hard to project because metals in general, because people keep putting major banks keep putting price targets for 2 years out, and then all of a sudden they hit them in 4 months. And so the bank, has to, okay, well, here's another price target. And then 6 months later, it hits that price target. All of that to say, I look at gold and I'm looking at, particularly with what's happened here over the last weekend, and I'm looking at 8 to 12,000 over the next 2 to 3 years. So, I mean, that's an incredible return, and it falls right in line with what it continues to do. And then, of course, we just go back to silver, and now all of a sudden, instead of 150, silver has to. So there's we'll see there, but on how they catch up to one another and whatnot. If gold goes to 12,000, make no mistake, silver now has a fair value closer to 300. So there's kind of this tug of war or walking the dog almost that will occur with gold and silver. But either way, again, it's really hard to give any sort of projection that is too high, so to speak, because everyone that keeps making moderate, so to speak, projections really just has egg on their face.
Mm-hmm. So many thoughts running through my head. I want to make these announcements real quick before the thoughts disappear into the ethers. Folks watching this broadcast right now, join Bill and I next week. It's just going to be Bill and I for the entire show. We're going to talk about Wealth Coach University. We're going to talk about GOOTS, GOOTS, get out of the system, how to do that properly, and gold and silver being one of the core components. There are a couple of other buckets we'll be discussing. We want to get into all that in the next episode in great detail. And anyone has any questions, you can do two things. You can email me, john@jmcbroadcasting.com. It's a dedicated email for this purpose. Questions with the public only, and I will I answer everyone that I can. I'm getting a lot these days, but please send the email. You can also, if you want a consultation, if you want to get your questions answered, you're considering rolling an IRA over or getting your 401k out of harm's way, or non-IRA assets, you just want to acquire gold and silver and you don't want to make any mistakes, because not all precious metals deals are created equal, and not all gold and silver is created equal. You can give this gentleman a call on the phone. What is the best phone number? I don't even have your phone number here, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. So 1-800-200-GOLD, and just obviously mention that you came from John, ask for me, ask for Bill, and we'll get you taken care of. Obviously, I know that we've got, I believe, is it JMC Metals, Precious Metal, or JMC Metals there? I apologize, I don't have the URL in front of me, but okay. You can reach out that way.
Yes, thank you for the phone number, and for clarification, it is up on the screen. Don't worry. JMCGenesisMetals.com. When you go there, folks, the link was broke. It's fixed. I got a lot of emails, people wanting to acquire gold and silver last week, and the link wasn't working. So it works now. You have the phone number, you have the link, and the link is very educational, and it'll fast track you to Bill. Make sure you ask for Bill. He's he's a good firm, but he's the top dog there, the guy you want to speak to, and you can clearly see that from his broad scope of knowledge here. Knowledge is what you need. You need education and information before you act. And that's why I put together the 10 modules at Wealth Coach University and have made Bill available to speak with you on a fast track basis. And don't feel like you missed it if you missed last week because we had a big jump. You can clearly see from this episode and from other economists and analysts the world over, as much growth as we've had in the last 2 years, the majority of the growth still lies ahead. So it is absolutely not too late. In fact, I still incrementally buy, as funds free up for myself, where I make shifts within what I'm dealing with personally. In fact, I just bought some gold a few weeks ago. Silver, I've got a lot of silver, so I'm holding off there. But anyway, gold and silver, the place to be. Closing out a couple of quick things here, Bill. As you're talking, particularly in the last 5 minutes, the common thing I hear from you is control. But where? At the central bank system, in their hands on all this gold and silver. Do you see that changing? I realize it's a crystal ball statement because there's so many elements out there, laws that are being changed. So, for example, the 401ks with President Trump and the entire parallel system as we're trying to get away from the central banks. We do not support a central bank digital currency. The president does not. We hear Eric Trump speaking a lot about crypto, and we're going to bring on Josh Reed in a moment to cover that. But gold and silver is the big story right now. And will remain so. Do you have any comments, projections, viewpoints, or things to share with our audience about how will the controls, and will they move away from the central banks' fingers in our gold, God's money, gold and silver? Will that change and be driven by true market capitalism, supply and demand by we the people, and favorable policies by the Trump administration? Any comment on the control mechanism is where I'm getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, first off, in regards to the paper side of this, that is really what is unraveling right now, is the paper side of this. And so, physical gold and silver, people still want it. Everyone still wants it. The problem is they can't get it. So the paper side is unraveling. As far as kind of the control mechanisms there, and as you know, I was in military intelligence as well. But everything I'm hearing is that Trump is bringing in, and we have some data to suggest this, is bringing in more gold than we've ever seen before, more than any other president. And so I do absolutely believe that he and his administration is gathering up and grabbing the gold that has been stolen from us. You could look at something like Fort Knox. A tremendous amount has been lost, and I know we haven't done the audit yet, but I think that's because a lot of it is missing, and we're still trying to figure out exactly how much is missing. And a lot of that has gone to different places, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But suffice to say, absolutely, part of this battle. I mean, gold is really kind of the as the lifeblood of really any currency in history. Part of that is it also functions as a power, really, in a lot of ways for people. The people who have the gold tend to have the power. So part of this is Trump is wrestling away the gold from these different entities that do currently control it. And I believe he's succeeding in that. And I believe that we're going to see really tangible proof of that over the next couple of years. And people maybe don't know exactly what's going on with that now, but they will within the next couple of years, maybe sooner.
Yes, the golden age is dawning, and that has a lot of different meanings, at least for me. And those that follow the president, if you look at his penthouses and so forth, he kind of likes gold. But anyway, more importantly, he's also, and we're going to talk about this next week, folks. I've got some pointed questions for Bill that I hadn't asked before about the 401k market and the bill, that sweeping, incredible bill that the president just enacted as of February of next year, allowing us to put physical, tangible assets such as gold and silver and others into the 401k. I don't know, there's an estimated 10 or 15 trillion in that market. Big things happening. That's why it's just going to be Bill and I next week on a bounce back and forth Q&A with a set of issues that I will script out that I think are important. If anyone doesn't want to wait till next week's show to take action, don't. Go to the modules, get your education, jot down your questions, and give Bill Armour a call at 800-200-4653. Folks, this isn't a sales pitch. Okay, you can clearly see what is going on. If you're following my broadcast at the GFR with my guests, if you're following my Global Defense War Military and Intelligence Panel monthly, if you're following the new show, Eyes on Gitmo, kind of takes a different tack on there. But even there, and certainly all the episodes I've done with Juan, these are military and intelligence and financial experts. Folks, it's happening, and it's good news. Birds of a feather flock together. I love what's happening to the banks, egg in their own face. They'll be throwing it at each other. The Q is right. Gold will expose the Fed. In this case, right now, at this particular second in history, it's silver doing that job, but gold doing it as well at 4,200. This is a wonderful broadcast with incredibly great positive information. Act. Folks, I have 2 words. It's time. It's time. So 1-800-200-4653. Go to jmcgenesismetals.com. Go to wealthcoachuniversity.com. Bill and I have done our very best in our respective expertise and lines of communication to bring you to a point where you can make an informed decision that you're comfortable and confident in. And I will leave you with this to our audience as we sign Bill off, is simply this. When you go to wealthcoachuniversity.com, there's a little blue tab. It's a simple, easy site. You click on that blue tab. It's the advisor scorecard. I could have put 100 items on there, but I put 10. 10 important things that you want to ask of your advisor. Ask yourself and do an honest assessment. Check the box, yes or no, and see how they fare. Okay? Because doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is an old adage from, we think, Einstein, that you want to adhere to right now. Check out the advisor scorecard. Things are changing. It's time for change, and action changes things. That's up to you. All we can do is provide the information and education. We've done that in this episode with Bill Armour. We've got the Wealth Coach University. Give a Bill a call for a free consult and make your moves today. I want to thank you very much, Bill Armour. Any last closing comments from you, Bill, before we go to a quick break and bring on Josh Reed on crypto? Any quick comments?
Just that, John, I think you hit the nail on the head, that everything is coming to the light. Everything will be revealed. And what's going on with metals right now is just one piece of that. And I think it's beautiful in its own right that this is just, kind of the inevitable result of so much shadowy nonsense that's been going on for so long, finally coming into the light and finally being revealed. So amen to that.
Amen to that. Absolutely. We're rescuing the children. We're exposing those that fund Antifa. We put Antifa on the terrorist list. Now we're finding out who funds them, and the list is incredible. You should go check that out, folks. We'll be talking about that in the Global Defense War. But you're right, Bill. The evils of the world, the corruption of the world, in this great cleansing, in this great awakening, from dark to light, all the sound bites make sense. They all are here. It is happening, folks. And it's a great time to be alive. Thank you, Bill Armour. And I'll be right back with Josh Reed to discuss blockchain, crypto, XRP, and much more.
Your hard-earned assets are under attack and may be in harm's way. Many people are confused, thus concerned about what is going on with the currency, the markets, and the economy. A great change is underway. With the private wealth coach consult, of which John Michael Chambers discusses in greater detail in Module 10 of the Wealth Coach University, you can break through procrastination as you become informed, empowered, and connected. JMC has created a system whereby you can avail yourself to a team of like-minded professionals to help you navigate this unprecedented minefield and meet privately with John Michael Chambers. The Wealth Coach University was launched based upon years of experience as a successful former financial advisor to help you, Goots, get out of the system.
Hello, this is John Michael Chambers. I retired after nearly 15 years as an independent financial advisor in 2008 to heed a higher calling. My biography can be accessed by visiting wealthcoachuniversity.com. I know what goes on behind the scenes in the world of Wall Street and investments, as well as having my finger on the pulse of the global financial reset of which we are presently engaged. Let's discuss the Wealth Coach Consult. I am not a financial advisor, and I do not give specific financial advice, nor can I assist you in the repositioning of your assets. I will, however, provide answers to your questions to the best of my ability and provide a high-level analysis of you and your situation. At the conclusion of our consult, if one is prepared to take the next step and begin repositioning assets to GOOTS, G-O-O-T-S, get out of the system, I will make available to you the appropriate individuals in my resource network. In the financial world, these are licensed, seasoned, patriot professionals that can assist in this area and to help you get from where you are to where you need to be as soon as possible, both confidentially and with confidence. Visit wealthcoachuniversity.com. By doing so, you gain access to the 10 free educational video PowerPoint modules. Then schedule your Wealth Coach consult with me today. I do look forward to speaking with you. It's time. All right, Josh Reed served just under 10 years in the United States Navy. He's the founder of the Red Pill Project and host of The Daily Dose and Conversations on the Fringe. He's a good podcaster. He's done great work. You want to follow Josh Reed. Please welcome. This is a conversation I had with Josh a week or so ago. We're going to run it today. It's still very applicable to everything that's going on. And Josh will be joining us every other week for commentary on what's taking place in the blockchain, crypto, and XRP, et cetera world. Here's Josh Reed. I'll be right back after Josh to wrap up the show. Hey, Josh, welcome to Global Financial Reset. I'm glad you're able to spend this time with us. Your information is extremely important. A lot of people have been asking. I'm glad you're able to pop on here every other week. Welcome back to the GFR, Josh. Good to see you.
John, I'm happy to be back, my friend. I hope everybody is doing well out there. And man, it's an interesting time to be alive, isn't it?
No question about it. And to that, we're going to jump right into this. I've got 2 or 3 40,000-foot view questions, but you can get into the weeds. You know, we've got about 20 minutes or so here. So provide for our viewers, if you will, any updates on the global financial reset, on the parallel economies that you and I discussed in the previous episode you were on, where we are at regarding that, and what are the highlights you see presently taking place, or anything new you want to report that may be occurring. And then part B would be what lies ahead in 2026 regarding the parallel economies and the shift that we're in the middle of. So that's a big, broad question, but you're the guy to jump into it. So take it away, Josh. We'll talk more about crypto as well in a moment.
Yeah. So if you go back to what Donald Trump says just a few weeks ago, he said that in 6 months, the economy is going to boom. And he didn't say within 6 months. He didn't say in the next 6 months. He said in 6 months, very specific on that time frame. And when he said this puts that at around January or February time frame. Now, in the context of cryptocurrency, we can all see this foundation being built up right now.
Mhm.
Now, September in October are typically down months for cryptocurrency, just the way the trend lines actually happen. Now, what I'm thinking is happening in cryptocurrency right now, just through my analysis of what I'm doing in my various different mastermind groups and just looking at the daily inflows and what's happening, is that I think that we're kind of a little overpriced on the Bitcoin side. We've had a lot of institutional purchases and buys in Bitcoin. This has skyrocketed the price to $110,000, $114,000, $120,000 per coin. And I think that we're going to see a drawback in the price just a little bit temporarily until about the January, February timeframe. And I think that this is going to be curtailed with a lot of the major economic things that are happening in the world and in the geopolitical scenarios that are happening in the world. And I'll get into that in a second. But when I start looking at it, there was over $100 billion liquidated from the crypto markets this past weekend. Now, that's pretty significant. Luckily, Bitcoin is a $2 trillion market cap, so it wasn't that significant. But when we start talking about that, other cryptocurrencies got pretty hammered. We're talking about altcoins in this context, things that are not Bitcoin. Now, with Bitcoin itself, and that's kind of the creme of the crop when we want to look at this, institutional investors have a massive inflow into Bitcoin and Bitcoin-styled ETFs, which people can go out there and purchase. Now, the question is why? The main reason why is because we are moving into a new digital framework. The Genius Bill and the Clarity Act that we talked about last time are going to be the new foundation moving forward to how the U.S. government is going to start to borrow money. This is asset-backed money that they'll issue gold bonds, 30-year, 20-year gold bonds, and Bitcoin bonds, from what I am hearing from my sources. These will be issued to stablecoin companies, of which then the stablecoin companies will go out there and issue a stablecoin, not a central bank digital currency, a stablecoin that is specific to the US digital dollar, of which then can be utilized by the US government to pay debts, to go out there, pay for services, and distribute out into circulation. Now, this is completely different in context to how central bank digital currencies work. I don't think we need to get into that in discussion. A good idea, though, for a future discussion is to discuss that, because it is still a potential scenario arising in other different countries around the world. But in the United States,
Yes.
it's very set that this is going to be an open market dynamic, and how digital currencies or stable coins are distributed through the government in a auction format. So I like that perspective. Now, what does that mean for you and me? It just means that our money is now going to be moving towards an asset backing. Now, this hasn't been officially announced, and I think that there's a strategy behind this official announcing of utilizing the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, and gold-backed bonds to purchase digital dollars. But once it's officially confirmed, what you're going to see, John, is you're going to see the price of metals and cryptocurrency skyrocket to the freaking moon. It is going to be absolutely epic. Now, right now, there's also another part here. We're talking about the geopolitical concerns. So we have Russia and Ukraine that is ramping up. We have Europe being very, very aggressive within Poland and other areas. They are moving NATO in, moving the military in. Germany just moved naval warships into the areas around Russia. The United States just sent out a whole bunch of strategic refuelers and tankers out into that arena. Now, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump met a few weeks ago. Trump rolled out the red carpet. They had a great deal. It was a great conversation. The next day, Putin goes out there and begins a bombing campaign on Ukraine. This is just nothing more than Putin saying one thing and doing an exact other. Now, I'd like to say that Trump and Putin on their same side. I don't think that necessarily is so right now, or at least that's how Trump perceives it. From what I'm gathering is that was a potential false flag done by the deep state, by the globalists, to instigate and to destroy Donald Trump's deals with Russia. Now,
That makes sense to me. Sorry, go ahead, continue. Yeah. That makes sense to me, but go ahead.
Now, could we see Russia and the United States go into direct kinetic conflict? Well, the problem with Russia is Russia's incredibly weakened. So Russia can barely stand up against Ukraine right now, because you have the primary force of NATO and Europe fighting against them, that if the U.S. entered the war, it's basically over and done with. But the big concern right now is China and Taiwan utilizing a aggression in Ukraine and Russia with U.S. intervention to go into Taiwan, which then that's going to escalate the situation, as well as a potential situation occurring right now in Venezuela with the 8 U.S. warships off the coast of Venezuela, with that having a big impact on what China does next. Now, if this scenario did come out, and I think that this week, October 1st timeframe, because we're coming into Red October here, we could potentially see kinetic action by the United States of America in Venezuela. And this is U.S. striking various different targets throughout Latin America, specifically in Venezuela, an island known as Margarita Island, where a lot of Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iranians actually are planted out in. Now, if this does happen, we got to remember there's maritime trade channels in these areas, the Panama Canal. You go over into the Russian area, you go over into China. We got this, the Taiwanese Straits. We got the Straits of Hormuz in Iran. All of these trade channels are going to get clogged up. And what happens then is we start seeing economic impacts and potential economic black swans or massive economic declines. And I think that we're going to go through a short period where we are going to have the markets decline. Number one, I think that's good for the market. It's a nice correction that occurs within the markets, allows people like you and me who maybe don't have tons of money to get into the markets at a lower rate before a big boom happens, like Trump said, in 6 months, as well as cryptocurrency. I believe during this point in time will probably come down. My speculation is Bitcoin's probably going to come down to that 104,000 mark. For lucky, maybe that 92,000 mark, but don't look at it as it's the end of the world. Just look at it as a time to get in and buy if you are someone who is out there buying in the cryptocurrencies. But what we are seeing right now is probably what I would call the last partitions of this this highly volatile framework of cryptocurrency. People know that cryptocurrency has been highly volatile since its inception. One of the big reasons is because the domination of the market of cryptocurrency prior to institutional investors coming in was done from margin traders. So you have marginal traders that come in that are leveraging 100x leverage. So they're leveraging $100 million, and they're moving the crypto markets. So if you know how the derivatives markets works, those markets can be incredibly volatile, especially when the majority inflow is from margin trades. So in that sense, when the institutional investors came in, they basically blacklawed all of the retail investors. The amount of inflow that they were doing with capital into the crypto markets, it just negated everything that marginal traders and retail traders could do. So we have an institutional market right now for cryptocurrency. So any ups and downs that we're seeing within Bitcoin specifically, this is institutional traders making moves and making trades. Now, I say that this is the end of this partition because what we're about to happen is the retail investor is about to re-enter the scene. But before that happens, you have to draw down the price just a little bit to make it appealing for the retail investor. And you just heard that the Trump administration is going to be sending checks out, refund checks to everybody in the next couple of weeks or couple of months of various different tariffs and stuff like that. It's going to give people free flow capital to start investing in these things at the same time the market's coming down. Eric Trump just came out 2 days ago, said, buy the dip. I'm telling people to buy the dip.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Josh. Great information. You mentioned, and of course, we know about the parallel economies, the one we're trapped in all these decades and the one we're moving into that's being developed. When do you think, of course, this is a crystal ball question, I get that, but when do you think we will have our digital dollar? Because there's a series of steps that has to take place to get us there. What's your estimation on that, and how does that, what are those series of steps? Here we are today with a dollar that's down about 10% year to date, the paper fiat debt-based central bank, Federal Reserve money, and then we have a stable digital dollar encrypted in QFS some fine day. What are the steps from where we are to getting there, and what in your crystal ball do you think, when do you think we'll be there?
So I think that you're going to begin to see the start of the first implementations of this around the beginning of the year in 2026. And I think this is where a lot of major announcements are going to come and a lot of new legislation is going to come into play. And the reason we need legislation is because one of the things we have to understand is that we're sitting on 100-year antiquated infrastructure in the United States of America, period. I mean, number one is the financial institutions, the banks, the regulatory agencies, they don't have the capabilities to actually start taking in a whole new monetary process. On the retail level, we don't have the systems and the software or the exchange mechanisms to support or substantiate cryptocurrency. I mean, it's slowly being integrated, but we just don't have it. So number one is we have to build out a new infrastructure in the United States of America. So Donald Trump has secured $17 trillion of investment capital from various different countries and investors that right now is being utilized to build out AI infrastructure, blockchain infrastructure. And Donald Trump is working more primarily with the companies and allowing them access to venture capital and other free flow capital grants and these types of things to build out their own infrastructure in the United States of America that would then supplement this grand infrastructure design of AI and crypto convergence, of blockchain convergence. So I think that that right there is going to be about a 5-year process for that to happen. Now, in the context of using a digital dollar inside the United States of America, the government has to set up its own framework internally. Now, this is going to take a little bit of time, but not too much. I believe they already got the initial framework already developed within the governmental systems. But I think that the original parts, what we're going to see with a digital dollar, with stablecoin companies being issued gold bonds, 50-year gold bonds, and then issuing stablecoins, this is going to be a primarily internal process, very similar to the interbanking systems that we see right now throughout the central banks, that this is not going to be a retail market or you and me exchanging these types of US dollars. This is going to be simply for government contracts. This is going to be government purchases and government payroll, these types of things, of how this this is going to be utilized, and there'll be a quick transitionary medium. So an interoperability framework. This is kind of where XRP plays into the role, but there'll be a quick interoperability framework that'll immediately transition that into actual US dollars that are legitimate and used within the grand economy. So I think that as early as January 2026, we'll begin seeing the initial indications that it's happening, and maybe even the usability and the issuance from stablecoin companies. But I believe that that'll be more of an intergovernmental framework on how that'll be operated. It's not going to be kind of a global mechanism. It's not going to be me and you going out there and using these new US dollars in the stores, but it'll operate more of kind of an interbanking framework. And then I think 2027 to 2028, we're going to see a lot of the infrastructure being built out in blockchain and AI throughout the United States. There's going to be massive amounts of jobs, massive amounts of growth.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a very booming time from 2026 to 2028 is going to be absolutely phenomenal for economic growth. And I'm just hoping that people can get their money in the right places before these points in time come, because I'm telling you, it is going to be the largest 2-year period of growth that we've probably ever seen in the history of recorded history. Okay. So that is key. So that puts us at about 2028 to 2030, where we start to see this kind of trickling out into the regular world, to where a digital framework is becoming the norm, but it's at the point of adoption. So give it about 2 to 5 years for adoption. 2030 to 2032 is when this is a reality, and this is usability. It's kind of moving the internet from just static websites into, Facebook and MySpace and the X and the Twitter. Is that time frame, instead of 20 years, is going to be about a 2 to 3 year framework.
Wow, thank you. I took a few notes as follow-up to everything you just shared, and I want to ask you about it's been reported that the QFS has actually officially been activated. Now, what extent it's being used, I don't know. Can you confirm that the QFS, the Quantum Financial System, has actually been activated? And if so, what does that mean?
Well, so that would be my question. Whoever told you that is, what does that mean?
Yeah.
The reason I have questionability on that is that there's no framework. What do I mean by framework? Right now, the internet infrastructure is done through fiber optic and copper cables underneath the oceans, underneath the grounds, and to people's houses. This is how we transfer information. That framework is limited to primarily a 1 to 3 gigabyte transmission data band rate. Right? So it can only transmit certain amounts of data. Now, when you start talking about quantum computers and quantum computers running financial transactions, like a tokenization framework of the New York Stock Exchange and all the transactions that are occurring there, and then all of the various different supply chain transactions and a quantum infrastructure that's supporting that, you need 10, 20, 50, 100, a petabyte of bandwidth in order to supplement that. And the thing is we don't have the physical infrastructure to substantiate that right now. Now, if this was being done through something like quantum entanglement, which we know 2018, China launched the first series of quantum entangled communication satellites. In 2022, they launched a second series of quantum entangled communication satellites. We know the United States military has quantum entangled communication satellites, but these are primarily utilized for military purposes and military grade purposes, and various points of encrypted communication and command and control authorities. And they haven't really been integrated into financial aspects. Now, those types of things could absolutely substantiate and sustain a quantum infrastructure, but there's nobody who has it built out in their facilities. We don't see Wells Fargo or JP Morgan Chase or BlackRock or any of these companies having that level of technology. So therefore, my assumption is that it's built out in idea, it's built out in theory, it's built out in not integrated framework, as in, this is what we want to do, this is how it's going to go, this is the plan over the next few years, this is how it's going to roll out. But as of being active right now, I would disagree.
Okay, thanks. I want to ask you about a dual currency operation, globally speaking. What do I mean by that? I mean, right now, when you sit here and look at today, you have a central bank digital currency, which adds in, at least speculatively speaking, adds in something that mirrors the Chinese credit scoring system. There's going to be all kinds of potential problems with a central bank digital currency for deposits on account at the central banks. Okay, so we have that, and our fiat dollar in the system we're in, and we have the this blockchain, crypto, QFS, stablecoin world we're moving into that by some estimates and speculative measures and so forth may be 2028 or forward further on out. Okay, so the question then is, since we can clearly see right now the whole world isn't kumbayaing over one system, and they don't want to lose control of the flow of money, the issuing, the value of, and the control of. The globalista that have been doing this for decades, a century plus. So my question is, as we move towards 2028, whenever that time comes that we're now in this new system, is the whole world going to operate within that system? Will certain segments of countries or sectors opt out and have a parallel currency they're working with? Do you see that potentially happening? If it does,
Yeah.
they
So,
lose. But I'm curious what you think about that. I see it potentially occurring.
well, so you call it the dual currency situation. It's actually a tri-currency situation
Okay.
because what you have right now is you have three kind of monetary frameworks that are in development. You have the BRICS nations, where they're out there developing their own blockchain, their
Hmm.
own SWIFT system. They're going to have asset-backed currencies, which are digital yuan, digital ruble, and they're trying to create a centralized digital framework. So a centralized digital monetary value. So a BRICS dollar,
Hmm.
per se, right? That they'll utilize amongst each other. So how do you
Yes.
get clearance? So right now we have to go through Forex markets. You have to exchange the US dollar to the Canadian dollar. But here's the thing: is you have to have liquidity for those. That's how these markets work. That someone has to want to buy your dollars in order to give you Canadian dollars and vice versa. So what they will do is they'll just make it a standard within the BRICS nations that this intermediary, this BRICS dollar, is that intermediary for exact exchange. Very similar to how the dollar has acted as this
Hmm.
globally. But here's the big key. The other part of it is the European system, which is moving towards central bank digital currencies. We see this right now in the UK with the digital ID rollouts and how these are going to be tied to central bank digital currencies. Now, they are rolling this framework out through European nations and other nations of trade. But then you have the United States, you have kind of a free market perspective of these stable coins. These stable coins that are issued through privatized companies that don't have one specific vendor. They're not programmable. They're not central bank digital currencies, but they're also not compatible with the BRICS or with the central bank digital currencies. So then how does the world decide how to trade and exchange these things? Well, this is where it gets interesting because it all comes about on how we won the dollar battle in 1972 to 1974,
Hmm.
right? The reason why people started taking dollars into the reserves is because the dollar switched and transitioned to the petrodollar. It became the national reserve or the global reserve for the base trade of oil. And oil was ramping up. There's more cars coming out per capita. And therefore, the dollar became incredibly valuable as a holding mechanism in people's reserves, and the US was paying high interest. We know how all this worked. So it comes about where nations around the world are going to create and generate their own systems. But ultimately, the one that is the most valuable and the most powerful is going to survive. Now,
Hmm.
looking at the three various scenarios, a central bank digital currency that's programmable, that's tied directly into a global ID, that's not going to end well for Europe. I think we can all understand that. The BRICS nations, actually, they have a really good system. It's very similar to what is being created here. The only thing that I don't like about their system is it's based upon Chinese blockchain integration, which is very, very centralized. It's programmable. The digital yuan is programmable, and it's tied to social credit systems and to global digital ID. That's the only problem that I really have with the BRICS system. The American system, on the other hand, is based upon freedom. It's based upon the free markets, that there's no central point of authority that's in issuance. And so when we start to look at this on the global scale, who's going to be the number one importer exporter of energy in the world? The United States of America. The United States of America is the number one importer and exporter, and they have $124 trillion worth of assets under their feet that they're backing their currency up upon. They have various different rare earth minerals and metals, oil and gas, and other types of mines all throughout the world that they're holding within their asset infrastructure. If they're controlling all northern hemisphere trade through the Panama Canal, this is a no-brainer. the US digital dollar that is based upon the free markets, that's based upon the asset backing of the United States of America, who's building out the blockchain infrastructure and the AI infrastructure for the world, is going to ultimately win that battle, because tyranny ultimately fails in the end. So my thought is there's a try system, and that we're going to see all of these systems come up to compete, but ultimately the one that is the most freest is going to win.
Yeah, great analysis. I didn't get the try. I got the duel, but I didn't. That was enlightening for me. Okay, a couple of other quick questions I think is on the mind of a lot of folks that listen to the GFR show, and that is now we're coming down to simplicity. You've got everybody and their brother and sister on social media saying direct message me. I'm the guy who knows stuff, and get your XLM or XRP in your wallet from me. What are they talking about? Do they know what they're talking about? And what crypto would you steer away from? What crypto would you be leaning towards? And just how do people get an account properly set up?
Okay. Number one is you do not need anybody to help you get cryptocurrency. You can very easily download Coinbase. You can download crypto.com, Uphold. You can download a Trust Wallet, a Base Wallet. They're very easy. They're readily available on all phones. Typically, if they are on your phone as a crypto wallet, they are very well regulated, because Apple doesn't just let scammers come in there. Number one is I would always stray away from anybody telling you that you have to come to me on a Telegram channel or a Facebook channel and we'll set up your wallet and do all this. I just had 2 consultations last week of people that came in, John, that did exactly that. They found a company, and the company went out there and they funded it with $25,000, and the company has the wallet, and they said, I want my money out. And that company said, no.
Good luck, right?
That company came back and said, well, you got to pay your taxes. And they started charging them $3,000 on tax payments, and they still haven't released their money. So there are big scams out there. And what I would tell people to do is, if you don't know where to start with education.
Yes.
First and foremost, start with education. Get somebody who's going to go out there, and you can do a one-on-one consult with me, or there's crypto courses. You can find them free on YouTube. You can find them free online. I do one. Get education. Learn about what a wallet is and what cryptocurrency is, the different types of cryptocurrencies. And it's not that, and people are like, well, I'm just too old, or I can't, learn new things. It's over my head. It doesn't matter. Just learn the basics. Learn the bare bones of it. That's my biggest recommendation. So if people are telling you to buy XRP or buy XLM or buy Bitcoin or buy this, the only things that you should be buying are things that you understand, period, hands down. It's what it comes down to.
Yes.
Never buy anything that you do not understand.
Correct. Absolutely.
Gold and silver, very easy. We understand gold and silver. We typically
Yes.
wear it on our person. We have it in our safe at home. It's tangible. I can hold it. It's beautiful. It's great. I can rub it on myself. It's amazing. We understand it, though. If you don't understand cryptocurrency, don't take someone else's word for it and buy it because they are telling you to, because it's going to go to the moon. The majority of these people are just opportunists who are most likely position you into a position of failure. The best thing that you can do is educate yourself, period, hands down. Get an understanding of what a crypto wallet is. And I'll explain to people right now what a crypto wallet is. A crypto wallet is not a phone. A crypto wallet is not an actual wallet. There is no crypto that ever leaves the blockchain. All crypto exists and stays on the blockchain, depending on the blockchain it is. A wallet is simply a window, a portal into the blockchain. There is an encryption level that occurs between you, a company that owns a wallet, the companies that hold the wallet that you create them on, whether it's Coinbase or the hybrid wallets, that you get an encryption level called your keys. And that encryption levels allows you to peer into that window and see your cryptocurrency and control it. If you do not have those keys, if you do not own those keys, you have a problem. Number 2 thing is, anybody telling you to buy this coin or this coin or this coin or this coin, ask them why. And if they start talking about things like mBridge or Swift system or any of these, well, that's contrary to what we're talking about. If there's a quantum financial system coming up and the Federal Reserve and the central banking systems are going away, then things like mBridge and Swift systems are things of the past. So what do we need them for? It doesn't make any sense. So a lot of these arguments don't really hold truth. And what I would do is I'd press people on understanding that if we're moving to a quantum financial system, then you might want to start investing in blockchains that can handle the transactions of quantum computing or artificial intelligence. Now, a quantum system would need a minimum of 1 to 3 million transactions per second. That's TPS. Things like XRP can only sustain about 3,600 to 6,800 transactions per second. We have various other blockchains out there like Solana that can handle about 38,000 starting out with, 68,000 it's been tempered with, but advancements and expansions in the system can move that easily up to 1 to 3 million transactions per second. Now, you got to remember is XRP was built back in 2014. It's been updated, but if they could there's a big problem right now with Ethereum. The problem with Ethereum is it's slow and antiquated because it's decentralized networks. And so many people don't want to update it. And it's really, really hard to get people in line to make the blockchain better. That's one of the big problems that you have with a lot of these antiquated blockchains. The newer blockchains really don't have these problems, and they're well versed for the transactions that we're going to see in this new system that's coming up. So what I urge people to do is if you hear someone talking, it sounds great. Don't go out and contact them and just start buying. Don't go out there and buy anything you don't know, but instead get an education. Buy a course or take a free course online. Do what you need to do. Book a consultation with somebody and take it from there, and then use your own discernment and your own judgment of what you want to buy and how you want to buy it.
Good advice. In closing, Josh, a lot of talk on XRP, XLM, and the other one you just mentioned. These three, would you say there's room for growth in these? Are these solid? There's other ones paralleling or superior that have your attention?
Yeah, there's cryptocurrencies that are far more superior than XLM and XRP. XLM, I don't even think is even in the discussion. XLM is just a branch off of XRP. XRP, Ripple, look, they're making a lot of good private corporate deals. They're not working with any big governments or anything like that. They're not taking over the SWIFT system. They were in the running for a replacement for the central banking SWIFT system. Hedera Hashgraph, which is actually backed by Google, is one of the primary coins right now that is in the running for that. I think it was JP Morgan Chase just dropped XRP, I think. They were, or just maybe integrated or just dropped XRP. It doesn't matter. What you're seeing is that they are being adopted. Donald Trump has talked about them, bringing them into the crypto reserve. Great. I would say XRP probably has a 5 to 10 year lifespan of growth in this economy that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's not horrible. I look at XRP's price going from about 3 to 15, maybe high end over the next 5 to 10 years, $30 max. A lot of the things that people are told about how the tokenomics of XRP work are absolutely wrong. But I want people to understand that the deflationary protocols are never going to burn enough XRP for XRP's price to go to $100 or $10,000. Mm-hmm. It's just impossible. Unless you're looking at a $20 trillion XRP market cap. That's like $100 XRP is like a $20 trillion market cap. John, it's not even logical, right?
Sure.
So maybe XRP hits 800, 900 billion, a trillion, 1.2 trillion, 1.5 trillion market cap. And I think that puts it about a $30 price range. But I think that is far down the road, maybe a few years. So in the meantime, I look at there's primary investments out there that are easy 5, 10, 15, 20, even 100x potentials that are way better than XRP. I'm not going to give any specifics out right now because I can't give out financial advice, but there's way better blockchains out there that do things way more efficiently, way more effectively, and they are being integrated right now in a lot of these systems that we see being developed.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Josh. I want to close out with some brief comments and announcements to our audience. I've got a book coming out probably in November. It's at the publisher, going through the process, called Global Financial Reset, titled after the show. And the crux of the book, the foundation of the book, came off of my wealthcoachuniversity.com. And all of these things lead to what you're talking about, Josh, and that's education first. And the Wealth Coach University takes into count many other things in addition to the crypto. Josh and I've known each other going on 5 years. We have worked together at American Media Periscope. We've crossed paths in the media rooms at the Clay Clark General Flynn tours, and Josh is a great resource for you. He's in my what I call resource network at wealthcoachuniversity.com. You can visit. First place to start, Module 5, go straight to crypto. It's Josh. He recorded some additional data that's not here. He also contributed a chapter to my book, which comes out, like I mentioned, in November. Very high level and very thorough. I mean, wow, that's what that chapter is to me. A lot can be learned in this chapter and a lot of rabbit holes to go down and research. And Josh, I know you offer consulting, you offer coaching. I know you've got courses and classes on this. Besides people going through the Wealth Coach University to reach you, what's the other best place people can tap you and your education and your coaching and your knowledge on the subject of crypto? Where's the best place?
Just go to thecryptofuture.com. You'll see it right there, replace my name, thecryptofuture.com. That's how you can get in touch with me for one-on-one consultations. If you're just looking to get a hold of me, redpills.tv is the easiest way, but thecryptofuture.com for everything crypto.
And for those that just learning, most of our audience, of course, knows you well, Josh, from your work with AMP and your work on your own all these years, and your popular podcast now. But some folks don't. So, Josh, while we're discussing crypto here, fitting into the GFR show, Josh covers the whole big picture of the global defense war we're engaged in, from top to bottom. And on that note, as we wrap up, stay in touch with one of our producers, Sandy, because we do produce the Global Defense War military only panel, military or intelligence. You've attended one of them. We'd love to have you back. So would the panel members to weigh in because, as you know, we're crunch time now, October, November, December. The shit's hitting the fan, and we're going to be taking care of business on the street with the military, in my opinion. We'd love to have you weigh in on the other side of things separate from the economy. So we'll be in touch with you on that. I want to thank you, Josh Reed. Best place for people to find your platform besides the crypto to follow your shows. Where is that?
Yep, redpills.tv, redpills.tv.
Perfect. Very simple. Stay safe. Thanks for the valuable information. Good seeing you, Josh. And we'll catch you back on the GFR week after next. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
All right. Well, there you have it. Josh Reed. Join us in October for Eyes on Gitmo. Joining us on this new show, this is the second episode, it's a monthly, is Juan Savin, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, and retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck, who spent some time at Gitmo in a variety of capacities, including the Media Center and tribunals since 2004. So you'll want to catch the episode Eyes on Gitmo each month. Subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com. You'll get notifications and hit the follow tabs on our backup and regular Rumble channel, and you won't miss any of these broadcasts. Also, we have the Global Defense War. This may be our 6th or 7th month. We do a monthly here. Be sure to watch our monthly Global Defense War panel with Lieutenant Colonel Chuck Sellers, retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi, Navy SEAL CIA Michael Jaco, retired Army veteran Derek Johnson, and we may be bringing in Sheila Holm, the first non-military guest on the panel. We're working through mechanics to see if we can get Sheila Holm to join us in the one episode, perhaps October or November. So stay tuned, but join us each and every month at the Global Defense War. If you'd like a private Wealth Coach consult with me, visit wealthcoachuniversity.com. Check out the free 10 PowerPoint video educational modules, and you can be fast-tracked to an appointment with me. That mechanism is set up for you there on the website. You can also email me, john@jmcbroadcasting.com. This is the dawning of the golden age, and this is John Michael Chambers speaking with his voice. Speak with your voice. Please stay safe, and may God be with you and your family.
Join Juan Savin, retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, and other prominent military and intelligence guests for an ongoing monthly broadcast with John Michael Chambers as your host here on jmcbroadcasting.com. The premiere episode launches Friday, September 26, 2025, and is sponsored by Genesis Gold. Visit jmcgenesismetals.com. This panel will address, among other subjects of great importance, what's taking place with the military tribunals, sealed and unsealed indictments, and the avalanche of arrests to come. Will justice be served? This and much more will be addressed each month, including an analysis of current events, making sense of the events as they unfold, one psyop after another. Detecting truth from lies in the dying age of fake news and the rising age of AI and digital enhancements will help you to remain focused and grounded in these most challenging, difficult, and dangerous final battles. A new day is dawning as this golden age is at the doorstep. Remain informed, empowered, and connected by an elite team of military and intelligence experts, and together we will save America. Subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com and be sure to join us monthly. Eyes on Gitmo, wartime analysis. Nothing can stop what's coming, and the best is yet to come. Where we go one, we go all here at jmcbroadcasting.com.